Why is that? Why is it that there's almost a direct relationship between moral relativism and degree of education? Why do we have a slogan in academia? That idea is so insane that only a PhD could possibly believe it. I think you all know what I'm talking about. Why is that? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. Intellectuals can create all sorts of diversions and distractions and ask all sorts of fancy questions to hide from themselves. Retarded people can't. Little children can't. Farmers can't. The more education you get, the more you can hide from yourself. Because that's the power. The more power you've got, the more power you've got. And if you want to use that power to deceive yourself and hide from yourself, you can be very clever in doing it. So that's a very, very dangerous philosophy. 5. What's the enemy strategy? Well, here I'm getting into a little more creative and original and controversial stuff. But I think that I've got a spy down there in the war room in hell. C.S. Lewis must have had one with the Screwtape Letters. So here is my version of the Screwtape Letters. Here is Satan's 7-step strategy. 3 S's. Satan's a snake and a snake is an S. Step 1. Satan's ultimate end is damnation. He wants to eat your soul. He wants to win as many souls as he can for hell. That's his summum bonum, his greatest good. Step 2. One powerful means for this is the corruption of society, because society has an enormous influence on us. We influence it, and it influences us. So if you have good people in a bad society, and the society has a great influence on those good people, it's going to weaken that goodness. Dorothy Day, sort of the Mother Teresa of America, who might get canonized someday, has the best definition of a good society that I've ever heard. This is a major question in philosophy. It's probably the most important question in social and political philosophy. What is a good society? Her definition is wonderfully simple. A good society is one that helps you to be good. Well, then, a society that helps you to be bad, actually your words are, a good society is one that makes it easy to be good. Well, if our society makes it easy to be bad, it is not a good society. No, Satan has done a lot of work there. That's probably why you still see very many ordinary people who are good people. I think the average person in any society, certainly in our society, is a good, moral, trustable person. There are exceptions, but they're not the rule. And yet the society as a whole is much more decadent. I'm tempted, maybe it's an exaggeration, but I'm tempted to sympathize a little bit with those radical Muslims who hate and fear us because we're the great Satan. Well, you know, you're almost right. There is something like that here. We're decadent. Not as individuals, but as a society more and more. So Satan's gotten a lot of successes there. Step 3. What's the most powerful means to destroy society? Well, that's easy. There is one and only one absolutely necessary building block for any moral and healthy and happy society that wants to live and last for very long. It's the family. That is empirically, scientifically provable. The 4 societies that have lasted the longest have had the highest view of the family. One came from Moses, one came from Confucius, one came from Muhammad, and the other came from ancient Rome, which lasted 700 years, which is pretty long. Now, there's been a lot of other stuff in all societies, including those 4, but those societies lasted the longest and have had the most success and the most happiness, and all of them had a very high view of the family. In ancient China, individuals were not thought to be the fundamental unit of citizenship. Families were. And that makes sense. Well, suppose suppose you went to a society and you found that half of its citizens committed suicide. Would you think that was a healthy society? Would you think that society could last for very, very long? No. That's a desperately sick society. Well, if the family is the basic unit of society, and if divorce is the suicide rate, then half of our citizens commit suicide. That is a desperately sick society. When Mother Teresa came to Harvard, they didn't know what they were getting into. She started by reading the invitation. She said, "You invited me as the most well-known citizen of one of the poorest nations on earth to share your wisdom with us, one of the richest nations on earth." She said, "I don't want to be ungrateful, but that's not true. First of all, India is not a poor society. India is a very rich society. We have a great variety of spiritual riches. And secondly, America is not a rich society. America is a poor society. Any society that tolerates the slaughter of its own unborn children is a desperately poor society." Oops. A short act of contrition. Oops. Don't use it on your priest. All right, step 4. How do you destroy the family? That's easy. What creates a family? Marriage. Destroy the institution of marriage. Many ways to do that. Step 5. What's the simplest and most direct way to destroy the institution of marriage? Answer: loosen the glue that holds a man and a woman together. What's that? Sexual fidelity. The most important promise you ever make to anybody in your life. I will be faithful to you forever. If you can't trust somebody to keep that promise, then all trust goes out the window. But promises are the main glue of keeping any community together. If you can't trust other people to keep their promises, forget everything. Well, how do you destroy fidelity? Answer: the sexual revolution, which is a true revolution. Our ancestors would be absolutely amazed. I'm old enough to remember how surprising the counterculture in the 60s was to ordinary people. Those ordinary people, your grandparents maybe, were shocked at the counterculture in the 60s. They'd be much more shocked to realize that that has now become the establishment. And they are the counterculture. Whoa. Finally, step 7. How do you convince people of the sexual revolution? Answer: get the media under your control. That's where it comes from. We've ignored that battlefield, and it's a crucial battlefield, and we're losing our society largely because we've lost that battlefield. Well, that's his strategy, and that tells us where the main battlefield is. The main battlefield is the elephant in the living room. Sex. Why? Well, first of all, the rest of morality is pretty much in place. You won't find many people defending insider trading or murder or cannibalism or selling atomic secrets to the Iranians or even smoking. But if it's nothing to do with sex, it's okay. Example: take abortion. How in the world could the second strongest human instinct, namely a mother's instinct to protect her baby, be so overcome in one generation? It's amazing. The only stronger instinct than that is self-preservation. And for a mother, that's not even the stronger instinct. How does it happen? Well, if abortion had nothing to do with sex, it never would have become legal. Suppose storks brought babies. Little kids think that, by the way. That's in a sense more rational than the way they really come. That's weird. What an imagination God has.